So if you just subtract away the whole Shazam thing that I reported on the other day, most of the stuff coming out of DC Comics right now isn't bad. I've been reviewing all of the Future State books on my other channel, and for the most part, I've enjoyed a lot of them. There's some stuff in there that's kind of cringe, but for every cringe moment, there's like 2 books that are pretty decent. So I'm pretty pleased, honestly, with a lot of the stuff they're doing right now. After Future State, they go to Infinite Frontier. We're getting some really cool stuff out of that lineup. So I'm kind of optimistic about some of the things DC Comics is doing right now. A lot more than I am with Marvel. Marvel, I'm just about done reading Marvel. The only comic that I still read is Spider-Man. Other than that, I'm pretty much done with them. They just have totally lost it, and DC's doing good. So I'm just sticking with DC Comics for now. But there's a really strange rumor being kicked around that I want to discuss that I think is pretty interesting. And that's this rumor from Bleeding Cool that there's a DC Comics buyout in the works from fans with a lot of money. This is an interesting thing. People have been talking about this for a while. AT&T and Warner, they don't really publish magazines or books. There's a cell phone company, a movie company, so the comics is kind of a weird fit. However, sales are up. They're actually doing pretty good right now. They're actually making money. I know it's crazy, but they are. They're making money right now. Future State is selling out, and people are liking it for the most part. However, AT&T Warner wants to make money, and they want to pay down debt. And unloading DC Comics for the right deal actually wouldn't hurt them. So Rich Johnston, as much as I might not care for this man, I will give him credit. People in the industry will talk to him. And a lot of the times his scoops turn out to be correct. And he's kicking this around and saying, look, this is real. Now, he's not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to happen either. But it's being considered. So here's what he is saying. A collaboration of some of the biggest cheeses who, with a combination of personal wealth and raised capital, are making an approach to AT&T. Not to buy DC Comics outright from AT&T and Warner's, not to touch the movies, the TV, the games, or the merchandise, but solely the rights and ownership of the comic book side of the publisher, to be able to create and publish the DC Comics line as they would like, let Warner's do the movies and TV shows, but take all the cumbersome work of actually publishing comic books off of their hands, while Warner's are free to adapt if they wish. That's actually not a bad deal for AT&T Warner. Now, here's the other thing that I'll add to this that I think would likely happen. Let's say this happens, right? And there's more to this. There's more evidence that I'm going to show you that he actually backs this up. Here's what I think would likely happen in a deal like this. They wouldn't get ownership like this says, right? Warner's not going to give them ownership. What they'll get is the rights. Okay, they'll get the rights. I think that's something that can happen. But as far as complete ownership, I don't think so. They would be stupid to do that. But the rights to do what they want with it, I could see happening. But who knows? I don't know what the terms of this deal is. So they would make no money from merch. They would make no money from the movies or anything or tie-ins. All they would get to do is create the comics. So that would be interesting to see. And what they would charge for that, I don't know. So he actually backs it up right here. Other people will have heard about the big DC buyout pitch. And he actually puts some names down here. He also gives a number. As for the actual amount of cash needed to be raised for such a venture, if it was the full comics and only the comics buyout in perpetuity, estimates for the publishing value alone are around the 300 million mark. And that's a lot of money. Do they have that many people that can bring that kind of money? He's claiming 20 people are bringing 25 million to the game each. And that is pretty crazy. Now, in the other part of the article here, he actually posts some names of people that have heard of this, like Rob Liefeld, who I would say probably has some insider knowledge. He says in a response on Facebook to somebody that this is more real than you can imagine. Tires are being kicked. So this is interesting. And like I said, this doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but $300 million just to let other people do the work for you. And I would imagine maybe they would get some kind of a kickback. That's not a bad deal for AT&T and Warner. And this is something that a lot of people have been predicting for a while. Notably, Ethan Van Sciver has been talking about this for quite a long time, saying that this is going to happen. In fact, he even covered it and talked about, he's saying that this is Robert Kirkman that's trying to buy DC Comics right now. That's his claim, that it's Robert Kirkman and a bunch of his buddies or other people in the industry that are actually trying to buy these rights from Time Warner, AT&T right now. So it's an interesting idea. I just wonder if it'll actually go through, what would happen. It's just crazy to think about. So Robert Kirkman would make some sense because Robert Kirkman, like being behind this, he's a big part of Image. So he kind of has an idea of how to do this. So if him and all of his buddies or whoever is behind this deal, I don't know. That's just the big one that EVS has claimed. They could easily lay out a plan like, look, we already published comics with Image. This would just be, us doing this or whatever. So I don't know. Interesting. These would be people that care about comics. Would they actually try to make money with comics, though, and not make them woke garbage? That's a question. I just think this is interesting. That would be quite something. Now, and the one thing I got to say that makes me question a lot of this is in the original article, they say that Marvel, IDW, and Dynamite have approached DC. I think I got to call bullshit on Marvel. That makes absolutely no sense. That would basically be them promoting DC Comics and promoting their competition. Unless they were going to buy it and just shut them down, I don't see the purpose of Marvel buying the comics. But either way, I do think that there is something to this, and we will see. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? I'd like to hear from you. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, and share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.